Good evening and welcome to the June 30th Grafton School Committee meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law GLC 30A-18 and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Grafton School Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by visiting the Zoom link found on the Grafton Public School website. We will need to take attendance and announce all committee members and school officials on the call, and we will have a roll call for all the votes. So I'll do that right now to make sure everybody can hear me and that we can hear them. So Laura Often, I'm here. Jennifer Conley.
Jennifer Connolly here.
Amy Marr.
Amy Marr here.
Elizabeth Spinney. You're on mute, Liz.
Elizabeth Spinney here.
Rahul Rati.
Rahul Rati, I'm here.
Excellent. And then for our school officials, we have James Cummings.
Yep, Jay Cummings here.
Kristen Gasper.
Kristen Gasper here.
Tracy Kalo.
Tracy Kalo here.
Anita Patel. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you. Anita Patel here.
And Danielle.
I'm here.
Oh, it's good to see you. Good to see everybody. And before we get started, I'll quickly just review the committee reorganization. I'd also like to thank one more time Heather Riley and Melissa Maison for their service, and to congratulate Elizabeth Spinney and Rahul Rati for being elected to the school committee, and welcome them both. The committee reorganization, I have been reelected as chair. Thank you. Jen Conley is reelected as vice chair, and Amy Marr is reelected as our clerk. So thank you to everybody for stepping up. And then I would now like to take this moment just to introduce Rahul and Liz. Rahul, if you'd want to go first and just give us a little bit of your background and say hello to the people at home, we'd love to hear it.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the town of Grafton to have elected me into this committee. It's a very important committee for the town. So just a little bit about myself. I was born and brought up in India. I did my BVSc, that's Bachelor's in Veterinary Medicine, which is equivalent to DVM in the US, in India itself. Then I did my master's in epidemiology and a PhD all from the Netherlands. In 2002, I came to the US, and that was at the Kansas State University. From there, I came to UMass Medical School in Worcester. From here, I moved to University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. And in 2008, I left science and moved into photography. And ever since I'm a photographer, I'm still a photographer. This year hasn't been really good, I mean, for obvious reasons. But yes, I'm still a scientist at heart and brain and head everywhere, but more of an artist now. And I wanted to, in 2016, we moved to Grafton, actually. Before that, we were in Worcester. And ever since I moved, I wanted to serve the town. It's a beautiful town. It's a wonderful town. It's like 20 minutes from everywhere. The nearest grocery store or BJ's or Home Depot, everything is 20 minutes. So it's like a secluded town. I really love it. So I thought about running for the school committee because of my background, like my STEM background. Plus also, I had a non-American upbringing or the education. So I thought adding that, coming from a different background, I can give a different perspective to the education here, education system probably. And let's see how it goes. Thank you.
That's great. Well, we're looking forward to having a different perspective, and congratulations. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
And then Liz.
Hi. I'm Liz Spinney. I'm a Grafton mother of 3 kids. I have Kat in high school. Colin is now in middle school. Still sounds weird to say both of those. And my youngest, Madeline, is in 5th grade next year at North Street. I grew up in Ohio I received a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering from Ohio State and worked for a couple of years traveling around. I worked a bit in Ohio and New Jersey and Chicago. Then I went to law school, Notre Dame, in 2000, and I've been a practicing attorney for 17 years. I work as a consultant for several small biopharma companies. Basically, I write and negotiate contracts for them, including clinical trial agreements, research collaboration agreements, that sort of thing. I've spent the last 3 years volunteering in Grafton as president of the North Grafton PTG. I've also been a board member of Apple Tree Arts for the past 7 years, and I chair its annual gala and help with other events and do theater costumes and other things like that that come up. I'm also a member of the Grafton Farmers Market Committee, and I volunteer when needed with my son's scout troop, Troop 107. I was also the chair of the 2020 Yes Grafton Committee that you might have heard of. And I just a little bit of personal things. I love photography as well, and I love organic gardening and raise some chickens at our house. Have a dog named Dublin, and I'm really excited to be on the school committee and just ready to get started. So thank you.
Great. Thank you both. I think, we obviously have a challenging year ahead of us, but I think we have a very strong committee to tackle the challenges, and I'm excited to work with all of you. One more thing before we jump into the agenda. We did reopen the Q&A. I have continued to suspend open comment, but we thought it was important to have question and answers. We know a lot of people have questions about the fall, probably more than we have answers. And we did want to give you a forum to ask. However, I would like to ask that you treat this as you would if we were in a public meeting. We will get to your questions, but we will have the board be asking and answering questions before we go to the public. And I ask that you be respectful to us because this is our meeting and we need to get our business conducted. And we are always available in many ways, including email. We have our Facebook page, which is still active. You can call us. So we're always available to you in different ways. And this is another way that we'll attempt to help and answer questions. But the primary reason for this meeting is for us to conduct our business. So if it turns out that the public isn't able to ask questions respectfully, we may have to turn off the Q&A again. But we'd like to give the opportunity. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Jay for a district update. Jay or Tracy first? You're on mute.
Yep, we'll start with Tracy, then I'll talk about fall planning.
Okay, Tracy Kalo.
I'm happy to begin. May I share my screen?
You may. Do you need permission? No.
I do.
You do. Okay. Does that work?
Thank you. Sure did.
Great.
Let's make it bigger for everybody. So I wanted to start off with a quick update for the committee. I think most of you will remember, and I want to let Liz and Rahul know, that I spoke with the teacher leaders prior to the end of school, and we talked a lot about how we were going to begin planning for re-entry in the fall. And there were 3 big takeaways that I wanted the teacher leaders to be aware of and to communicate to their teams during planning. Without a doubt, we are looking to accelerate learning in the fall, not necessarily remediate it. And we are going to begin with pre-tests to inform our instruction. And we intend to maintain our end of year benchmarks. So with that in mind, I put out calls for Summer Academy this week with the expectation that any Summer Academy proposals would be informed by these 3 big takeaways. I took a look at my Google Doc before signing into the Zoom, and it looks like about 90% of the proposals are for creating pretests to ensure that we know where kids are and we can attend to their learning and move them forward from there. So that's very good news. In addition to that, many of you may know that the district is offering a Twitter book talk on culturally responsive teaching in the brain. If you are on Twitter and you want to follow us, you may certainly use the hashtag GPS culturally responsive. You will see that we have 30 Grafton teachers participating and 11 from area districts. I have a couple of friends who are out of state, so we'll have a teacher from Maine and a teacher from Connecticut. We will see responses from Shrewsbury, Marlborough, Neshoba, Wachusett, Northborough, and Sudbury. So I love the diversity. I love the different perspectives that are going to come into play so that we are deepening the conversation and really expanding our repertoire. And I just wanted to take a minute to talk a little bit about, and I'm trying to figure out how to make this smaller. There we go. Talk a little bit about why I decided to go with culturally responsive teaching and the brain for our Twitter book talk. And I think that this chart does a nice job of explaining why that might be. So equity work really consists of three parts. It consists of multicultural education, social justice education, and culturally responsive education. All three are important to equity, but they're not interchangeable. And not all of them will bridge the gap to increase learning for diverse students. So I want to explain why that might be. In terms of multicultural education, really what we're looking at doing is broadening perspectives and providing a lens for students of diverse backgrounds to see themselves in the curriculum. However, we're not necessarily looking at changing instructional practice. When we look at social justice education, we're raising awareness about inequities in our daily lives. So we're educating students to recognize and interrupt those inequities, but it doesn't necessarily impact instructional practice. However, culturally responsive education does, because it focuses on the science of learning, on cognitive development, and the intent of it is to change instructional practice so that we're increasing our marginalized students' learning capacity. So culturally responsive education really creates the educational equity, whereas the multicultural and the social justice focus really is more of a social support for students. And with that, I wanted to help you understand really what I am hoping that teachers are going to have as the big takeaways in terms of reading the book and interacting with each other on Twitter. And I'm taking this quote actually from the author, who was cited in a different article. She talks about how really the purpose is for teachers to be able to recognize the capital and tools that students of color or our marginalized students bring to the classroom, notice, name, and affirm those so that they can embed them in their instruction. So those cultural tools for processing information become a part of their practice, and they mirror those ways of learning in their instruction. So it gives us a sense of what we want teachers to take away from the book talk. And so what I asked teachers to do to ensure that they were reading the book with the lens of knowing they were going to adapt their practice, I asked them to set an intention for the reading with an essential question. And you can see here, I'm going to move you guys if I can. Oh, what I just did is I moved you. What you can see here is that I was able to take a quick snapshot of some of the Twitter responses where I asked them to tag me in terms of their essential question. And you can see that if you read through these quickly, you'll see that all of them are really focused on how can they use what they learned from the book, can they glean that information and change their practice so that they are bridging that educational equity gap. And with that, I can take any questions.
So Liz and Rahul, we typically just either raise hands or shout out because it's Zoom, and we just go on. We make sure everybody has a chance to talk. You don't have to Madam Chair or anything, please. You can just say Laura if you need to get my attention. Amy Moore.
I just wanted to say how excited I am that we can follow this on Twitter. I've been kind of following Tracy, you putting this out there, and I'm so impressed that you're taking this on top of everything else you have going on with the summer. And I'm really excited to see how this informs not just necessarily the teachers that are participating, but people like me who are kind of on the outside watching to see this move forward. So thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, it's my pleasure. It's a fantastic book. I read it couple years ago, just on my own because I love the brain. So I had picked it up. They're going to love it. It's really very, very helpful in terms of specific skills and strategies to use in the classroom to kind of engage in and embrace those cultural tools to support all learners. So thanks, Aim.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Being new to this committee, I wasn't sure what teacher leaders are.
Oh, that's a great question. So in every grade level, K through 12, there is a teacher leader who is responsible for supporting the grade levels, curriculum development, their assessment design, anything that's related to curriculum instruction. There is one person that supports that grade level. And we work very closely. I call them my teacher leadership team. We work very closely on PD initiatives and anything that's impacting teachers' lives in terms of curriculum and instruction and assessment.
They are teachers, actually. They are actually teachers, or
They're actually,
they are
yes.
teachers. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Jen, you're the only one I couldn't see on my first screen. So Tracy, I think I'm with Amy. I think this is fantastic, and I applaud you and the teachers who are working on this over the summer. It's going to come up again because we have the resolution coming up, but can you share a little bit about the additional work that's going to happen? I know this isn't just a book talk over the summer, that there's plans to kind of expand, and maybe you can share a little bit what Mr. Pignataro is doing at the high school, if you feel comfortable.
Sure, I can speak to it in broad generalities. So I know that the high school is putting together an inclusivity group. I know the gym has taken the lead on kind of pulling together teachers and students to begin this work, to talk about what is happening in the building, what's positive, what could be kind of refined in terms of inclusivity. And then I think they're going to kind of move forward with some education and some social activities to support kids, which I think is fantastic. In addition to that, the district is certainly going to look at additional trainings that support teachers in kind of navigating that educational gap in terms of equity. Already we are looking at a course that's being offered, a free course that's being offered by UConn this summer. Joanne Stockland and I have just put out a call to teachers across the district to see if they're interested in signing up as part of a free cohort. I will also tap into a lot of resources through the Assabet Valley Collaborative called ABC. They do a fair amount of training on culturally responsive teaching. And so that's a resource I definitely like to tap into once I find out what their training is going to look like. And different things will come up along the way. I'm hearing about a great book called White Fragility. So that might be something that Jay and I will look into for the admin team. So there's a lot of things happening at once, but I really like that we've got 30. So the 30 teachers that are representing every school. And so what happens in a situation like this, especially since it's out on Twitter, because other Grafton teachers follow me, they're going to be able to be involved in this conversation, and they're going to be able to see the cognition behind kind of bridging that gap, and start to have those conversations when they're doing some common planning and when they come back together in the buildings.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tracy, if you have a source for getting copies of that book, could you let me know? Because it's back ordered pretty much everywhere I've looked.
See, it's funny. I had friends from another district tell me that I think it was Amazon they couldn't get it on. And then I contacted Rose pretty quickly and she was able to get it.
Oh,
so
great.
Do you want me to reach out to Rose for you?
Please.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to Rose.
I really want to read it. It's been on my list, and I went to get a copy like 3 weeks ago, and Barnes & Noble sold out too. Everybody is. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Any other questions? Amy, any Q&A? Anybody here? Good. All right. Great. Well, thank you, Tracy. I look forward to hearing more about that. And we haven't had a chance to talk yet about thinking about goals and everything for the year yet. But that would be something I'd be interested in bringing up, thinking about this. So All right, so now I'm going to pass it on over to Jay for an update on fall planning.
All right. Can you make me the host?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Well, thank you for doing it. Okay. So I think the way to handle this, I mean, through the chair, if people, and we're going to have a million questions. You guys are probably going to have a million just tonight. Just to start, the next 8 weeks are going to be a tremendous challenge. And currently the unknowns absolutely dwarf the number of actual answers that I have or that we have at this point. But with that, as I present and just talk through this short slide deck, feel free to interrupt it at any time. So, we shared with the district the initial fall guidance that came out from DESE. In a nutshell, they asked us to prepare 3 different models. So we're going to come up with plans for these 3 models. One being in person, everybody returns to school, and all the medical precautions are put into place. The second version or plan is hybrid learning, which it varies. There's nothing set in stone. The most common hybrid version would be, or most commonly discussed would be, half the kids go to school for 1 week, the other half at the same time are home participating in remote learning. The following week, they obviously switch. We would keep our staff in place every week until we could return. That's hybrid. In the remote learning, you guys know what that looks like. If we did have to go back to remote learning, the state has been very clear that it would be definitely more robust. It would definitely be more supported on the state level, and there would be grading. Those 3 things I know for sure. So since the guidance came out, I think it was a week ago, it feels like a year ago, we've had regular meetings with DESE. The collaboratives, we really belong to 2 collaboratives in a consortium. I meet with those superintendents on a regular basis, met with Blackstone Valley superintendents this morning just to talk about different approaches, things that we've heard, just trying to make sense of it all. And then we also have superintendent meetings with the Commissioner of Education. We had one today at 3:30. Those, I think, are going to happen at least every week, if not a few times every week. I mentioned that we shared publicly the initial guidance the same day we received it. As part of that guidance, the district had to do 2 things. We had to send out a parent survey to get a sense of where, in a very general sense, where people stood in terms of their thinking about the reopening. And then we had to create reopening subcommittees. We did both of those things, I think, that very first day. That survey contained all of the things we had to collect. We've put that out. We've received it, checked it late this morning, and we had, it was just over 2,000 responses, I think. That's open through Friday. Once that's done, I'm fine with publicly sharing. I'll give you guys just a little taste of the responses so far. I would assume they'd largely hold true for the remainder of the week, but we'll share that basic information. The state, we then send that information to the state. The state hasn't given us a template or a timeline on that yet, but that's the idea. Basically, they're calling it a feasibility study. They want to know from districts, could you pull this off? Can you look at 3 plans and tell us, can you make it work? The most challenge, they're all challenging, but the most challenging being the in-person learning with the new safety requirements. Any questions so far? Okay. So in terms of the reopening subcommittees, we put together, yep.
I'm so sorry. I had my hand up.
Oh, nothing. I can only see my screen. So
Oh, okay.
that's perfect.
So when you say robust,
Yep.
what do you mean? Like, what are you envisioning? What does that mean to you? I think it can mean a lot of different things.
Oh, absolutely, it could. I think I'm taking that word, the use of the word, actually from those meetings with DESE, and they haven't defined what that would be. I would imagine it's going to be. We know it's going to be graded. probably more intensive. Maybe they look at, and this is all speculative at this point, rather than kind of that half-day model. It's probably going to be, I'm going to guess it's going to be longer, and I think it's going to have more, probably more face-to-face or some kind of increase in the interaction, the direct interaction between teacher and student, as opposed to districts did it 8 million different ways. Some, I think we did it pretty well, if not very well. A lot of districts didn't. They just sent home, there wasn't any interaction, and they would simply send home, say on a Monday, a to-do list of busy work. Students would do that busy work and maybe submit it that Friday. The state is definitely looking for more interaction. We're going to do remote learning. Let's do it better. And what that looks like, I don't know, obviously, but it's got to be more robust than what we put together, understandably, just winging it, if you will, from March on. There was no ramp up, etc. I wouldn't be shocked if they partner, they being the state, partners in some way with some kind of outside agency or company to help support any remote learning that does take place. I'm jumping ahead, but if we have hybrid or students, they've been pretty clear that there's going to be a remote learning option, that if we go back with full, if we go back in full with those new safety requirements in place, and a parent doesn't feel safe sending their student, I could certainly see that along the lines of kids with like respiratory issues or health issues. They're going to have a remote learning experience. If we have all of our staff providing in-person learning, we obviously can't at the same time be providing a remote learning. So I do know that the state's going to have to look at other options that would be hopefully free for the district, but there would be a cost to the state, I'm assuming. I think if they had time, we're looking at 8 weeks, but let's say we knew in a year we were going to be having to do remote learning, and we knew that, I would guess that the state would pull together as many resources as it could and produce its own remote learning platform. I don't think they're going to have the time to do that, and I think they're going to have to look to invest in something with remote learning to at least help. Does that answer your question? I know it was a long answer.
It does. I wanted to kind of get some of those particulars out there because I think it's confusing for parents who are listening or watching
Mhm.
to know what that is. And that's kind of a sense of what I had, but I think
Yeah.
that you addressed one of my concerns, which is this idea of a hybrid. We can't have teachers teaching during the day and then also supporting students at home. So what does that look like? So you did
Yep.
address that. So thank you.
Yep. And just to call a spade, it definitely is confusing. It's confusing to me. I don't have any document that you wouldn't have or anybody in the community would have. There's no, I wish there was, document B that arrives to superintendents that says, all right, this is what this really looks like or what this means. There isn't one piece of paper or one electronic document that superintendents at this point are privy to that the public isn't.
Are you surprised that the guidance is so high level?
Personally, I'm not. I'm hopeful that the more defined follow-ups that are referred to in the guidance, the sooner those come to us, the better. Be it around special education, be it around transportation, more detail on medical, although out of everything, I probably feel the most supported in that area. Those are the pieces that we don't have that makes real planning at this point. It's almost impossible. There's just so many variations on absolutely everything that comes up. If I listed I have paper upon, I'm glad you can't see my office area. Every topic has hundreds of questions. And that's without even putting effort into creating those questions. We will be reaching out about questions, about feedback, but it helps us if we have more information. So everybody's in the same boat, unfortunately. Yep. All right, so in terms of those reopening subcommittees, they're going to be made up of staff, parents, students, and community members. We have 7 subcommittees. If that's the plan right now, could we change tact and add an 8th at some point? We could. The thinking was that these 7 committees would be kind of foundational, and then we're going to have essentially teams that will be able to help support all of the subcommittees in terms of medical guidance, communication, financial support, financial questions that are going to come up. Each one of these 7, again, you could, if we just took a time out and spent a half an hour brainstorming, we could come up with hundreds of questions for each, and then hundreds more based on individual levels, specialized programs, etc. When you really dive into it, it's overwhelming. So those, go ahead.
How are we planning to identify members for
Yep.
this committee?
So we gave everybody until Friday to apply. I haven't gone through it with a fine-tooth comb by any means. We have, for each one of these committees, I bet we have over 50 volunteers. We're not going to just parents. We're going to have 1 to 3 on each subcommittee. So unfortunately, we're going to have to reach out to parents and say thank you for your interest. We just don't have, we can't have committees with hundreds of people. So the chairs of the different committees will be working to select parents. I haven't created like a rubric or anything. We'll definitely be looking for parents to represent the 3 different levels in terms of early education, basically middle school, 6th grade, and then high school would jump to mind. Obviously, anybody that we've got experience with, that we know is collaborative and has the time. We have so little time to do all of this in 8 weeks. It's a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll make those decisions very early next week, probably Monday. By Tuesday, we'll communicate that out and probably get going with virtual meetings as soon as Wednesday next week. In terms of the timeline, this is super rough. This is just, this is just my thinking, and we haven't done this. So we could, by mid-July, realize we're going to be moving at a faster pace, slower pace, what have you. My hope was that the general committees could basically take the state guidance, make that into Grafton-specific guidance, have that more or less ready to go to the highest degree possible by the beginning of August, then be able to turn that over to the schools where they'll have subcommittees at the school level that can look at the actual physical setup of the school, again, specialized programs, work with their specifics for that building and that population, those grade levels. Then come up with, take that school specific plan, hand that over, and that can be further refined by program, grade levels, teams, individual classrooms, and we'll be ready to go on September 1st is the idea. I'm going to obviously keep you guys and the public updated on this. I'm not married at all to this timeline, but that's roughly what we came up with. All right, so it continues to be murky. The fiscal picture is as murky as anything else. We have 3 major funding sources for COVID-19 related costs. The CARES Act that we've talked about I think during previous meetings, where we worked in conjunction with the town. We put in our anticipated or projected costs related to COVID. That included staffing, more PPE materials, monitors on the buses. That was done, I don't know what the date was. It was probably early June, if not May. So we didn't even have any guidance at that point. That was us just thinking of what we may need. We put in total, it's about 1.6 million school related and there's a lot of carryover. If we get PPE materials, we're going to share that with the town. So it's not exactly cut and dry, but roughly 1 million to 1.1 million would, in theory, go back to helping us with COVID-related costs. The ESSER funds, those were the original federal funds that were released. Those came out, and we have already encumbered those funds to buy PPE materials in that first wave. And then the coronavirus relief funds, again, that's federal. Well, let me backtrack for a second. The ESSER funds, we only received 80,000. That one was really tied to the makeup of the student body and financial well-being of different districts. So like an urban setting might have got much, much more than we received in Grafton. Coronavirus relief funds didn't use that formula. They went with a flat $225 per pupil. So therefore, that's just like, it didn't matter your makeup of your district. Every district received the same allocation based on per pupil. So that results, or will result in approximately 700,000 for Grafton Public Schools to use for coronavirus funding. That one right now expires, if you will, at the end of December, because it was tied to existing legislation. In talking with Dan, we do think that they are going to move to extend that to go beyond December and cover the entirety of the 2021 school year. So those are the three COVID-related funds. That's our best thinking. We think those numbers are going to be pretty close to reality. In terms of general fund monies, sorry, I keep doing that. We could see an increase of 381,000 approximately for FY21. I don't know exactly what we would bring back with those monies. I would think with so many unknowns that I'd probably bring back the things or add the things that I know that we need. Those would be the AP position at the high school, tech teacher that was reduced at the secondary level, and add the guidance position at the elementary level. Those three positions we know we're going to need. In no rush to spend out the rest. I think we'd be wise to hold on to that and make sure that the things I already talked about actually come to fruition and get a better sense of what the model is gonna look like at the start of the school year. We've talked about the state budget being anticipated with a decrease of 10 to 30%. Dan's done a lot of really great work with that. We're hopeful that we'll be basically held harmless to some degree and only see a reduction, almost worst case scenario, of about $550,000. That's not set in stone by any means, but that's our hope. We annually bring in about 800,000, a little over, in terms of federal grant monies every year. Those monies every year, the amounts are released in the summer. So we're ready to go, and we kind of anxiously wait. It used to be stressful. Now it seems like absolutely nothing, to be honest, to see exactly what our funding level is for those different grants. So we don't know, obviously, we don't know what the grant status is right now, and we don't know to what degree we're going to be funded, but we do pay for quite a bit of salaries out of those federal grants. And then my last thought, it was just a question that needs to be considered by the school committee. We obviously don't know what the model is going to look like at the start of the school year. We don't know what transportation is going to look like. I think I can safely say that we're expecting a significant decrease in the number of students taking the bus. We don't know if it's going to be every day, if it's going to be every other week. So transportation fees in terms of the bus are exceedingly challenging. So I think that's something that needs to be thought about. Also, along with that same idea with athletic fees, we had talked about, and the plan was to begin collecting athletic fees in the coming year. We don't have any guidance so far from MIAA or the state about athletics. There's a lot of talk about changing the athletic schedule, running we'll certainly talk about not running anything in the fall, but if we did run sports in the fall, maybe put some sports that are more conducive to social distancing, be it golf, tennis, cross country, that type of thing, put them in the fall and move the other more high contact sports into the spring. But again, that's just been discussion. But if we're going to dive in less than 8 weeks, it would probably be about, at least, even if we delayed, we're looking at in 6 weeks instituting and starting to collect fees. It's going to be a real challenge with the lack of clarity that we have. In terms of concerns, I think I've made it clear that I've literally thousands of concerns. So I want to be really clear. This is just the very tip of the iceberg. And these are just some of the more significant concerns, and they're all significant, is securing PPE materials. We actually ordered materials. I worried at the time that it was too early. It was maybe a week or two after that we started closing schools, and I worried that we were spending too much money. It was that ESSER money on PPE materials. I mean, in hindsight, obviously it was a great move, but we're just starting to receive those materials now, and we're still waiting on quite a few of those materials. So that's a concern. It's not just a concern for Grafton, it's everywhere. But the timing on that is critical. And we're talking about such a high volume. Somebody tweeted today, and it was a good thought. What if they allowed the use of the plastic masks instead of the cloth masks? I haven't seen any real direction on that from the state yet. I could imagine that that's coming. But say that's in 3 weeks and direction changes, there is no way we're going to order thousands or even hundreds of masks, that type of masks, and get them for September 1st. So we're giving a lot of thought to that. Hiring, we are able to hire, use those monies to hire people for a year, half a year, what have you. Typically, that's going to be in the area of custodial, nursing, technology. It could be in academic supports. Again, we've got kids in theory in 8 weeks. So we are going to have to make some decisions and get hiring quickly and be in competition with every single other district that's going to be doing the exact same thing. Scheduling is a huge challenge for all schools, especially at the secondary level, but all schools every year. That's in a normal year, that's one of the bigger challenges. It's very doable. We obviously do it, but it takes a lot of work to schedule. So to schedule when we have so many unknowns is just another massive challenge. And the physical setup of the schools is going to be an issue. Today, the call with the commissioner was focused largely on those actual physical setups. Just to give you a taste of the countless layers of challenges. Most of the photos that were used to set up the spacing in classrooms was all based on the 3 feet minimum. And they suggested taking out all non-essential furniture. Okay. We have a few maintenance guys. They're fantastic. We have normal trucks. Could we rent big moving trucks? Sure. I mean, just the volume of non-essential furniture is massive. Just when we change school buildings, that's feels like a full-time job for 6 months figuring that out. So now to do it with 6 schools, and where do you put it? We have one storage area, and that's below North Street Elementary School. It's pretty big, but it's not that big. So we'd either have to rent space, we'd have to use gymnasium space. I'm not sure what to do, but that's a challenge. I'm sorry if I'm depressing it too. Transportation, there are so many transportation questions. Tomorrow I have a meeting. Myself and Kristen Gasper will meet with AA Transportation and Anita in the morning and just start working through this. The state hasn't put out more detail on transportation. In the superintendent world, there's a lot of talk about one student to a seat and then use every other seat. So if you're talking about 15 kids on a bus, we're talking about numerous bus runs. We can't just add buses. Even if we could financially make that work, everybody's going to be in the same boat, and there aren't extra buses around. Like year to year, they don't just have a storage, unit where they just pull out full-size buses. We have 17 buses, and we need to figure out how to make it work. We'll most likely have to hire, if we're all going back, we're going to have to hire some form of bus monitors to deal with spacing, deal with safety precautions, deal with cleaning, maybe in conjunction with the driver. We haven't figured that out, but we've got to clean the buses between each run. And the driver doing all of that while also driving a full-size bus is probably just not doable. We're going to, I could talk about this all day, and I promise I won't, but if we have a significant increase in students being dropped off and picked up at school, that's going to pose huge traffic challenges for us. We have traffic challenges on a good day at most of our schools, if not every school. So a significant uptick in drop-offs is going to be an issue. Staffing issue. If we have kids come early, we've got to figure that out. Just so many variables with that. I'll take a pause for a second. I know I'm throwing a lot at you. Any questions?
Jen?
I have someone. All right, so you kind of, like, all my concerns you kind of touched upon, and I think you can't really answer any of them. Like, I know the timeline, like implementing all of this, there's just not enough time. So I don't know if I'm not sure what could be, I don't know, shortened. I don't know. It's so impossible to implement it all. And so,
Yeah, that's definitely the feeling, Jen. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that. I wish I did.
my other thing,
Make it work.
sorry, you touched upon it, was what precautions are we taking to protect? I know we're doing to protect what their guidelines were, but how about what are we providing? What PPE are we providing to protect the teachers and the staff that are there? What has been ordered, or what's sort of our thoughts so far? Do you know? Or
We've ordered everything that was. We went off of. I guess there must have been. They maybe didn't call it guidance, but there was a medical document that did go out very, very early. It must have been in like late March. Because initially they had this new money for PPE, so of course everybody wanted to and had to order. We were on the front end of that, which was nice. And actually the state set up basically now has PPE on their state bid list, if you will. So they've been very helpful with that. But masks has been number one. The nurses, I forget off the top of my head exactly what we ordered, but we did share it with them. It included gowns, thermal, I don't think it's thermometers, thermal, whatever you call it.
Scanners.
Yeah, scanners, thank you. The face shields. There were a ton of things that on the maintenance and custodial end we ordered. In terms of cleaning supplies, I think the biggest thing for the teachers at this point, well, at that point in March, and probably still now, were the masks.
so something that they would be provided on a daily basis, or is it something?
Yeah, in theory, we're trying to have enough that, well, I think in the guidance where everybody statewide, they're hoping that people will utilize the cloth reusables and wash them daily, and that's really to take the stress off of the PPE requirement on the school level. I mean, in theory, any student or staff who comes in, we have to provide that for them. right? You're talking about 500 staff members, 3,200 students. You can obviously do the math. Every day, if everybody came in with nothing, you're looking at 3,700 masks. That adds up quickly, not only in terms of cost, the management of the PPE, and availability.
Jay, is there, I know a lot of these supplies have been hard to get, including things like Clorox wipes and other cleaning supplies. Is there any concern that we won't have enough available, even though orders have been placed, that they just won't be able to fulfill them? Or do you think that that's pretty
I
likely?
checked with Tony last week. I think we're going to be concerned about PPE no matter what. I think I'd be more apt to, like, we were looking pretty good in terms of, like, Tony jumped on it pretty quickly. I mean, we're talking about like hundreds of gallons of the disinfecting gel that you would use for cleaning your hands. Just the volume is tremendous. He did a really great job of jumping on it and ordering. Most of the cleaning supplies we have received. My biggest worry is probably the masks and the face shields. Like, if we have to continuously provide them, just the sheer number is really overwhelming. So I will keep you guys posted, and I'll reach out. I haven't had an update from Tony on that since last week. But that's going to be a continuous area of worry, I believe, for us.
Jay, can I ask a quick question too? So what about, and kind of jumping on Jen's question, did you send out a survey to teachers and staff about their comfort level about returning? And have you heard any concerns from them?
Yeah, Kristen put it together and sent it out. I think it was this morning. Kristen, do you want to speak to it?
Sure. Yes, I actually sent it out late last night. We're up to about 270 responses. And I think the concerns are fairly similar to everybody else's concerns. All or most are planning and eager to return to school. They have the same kinds of questions that we do. They have, believe it or not, I think probably more concerns about the remote hybrid model than they do anything else, because if they themselves are parents and they're teaching in a hybrid situation and their children are in a hybrid situation, how do they teach at school, every day, every week, while their kids are on an on-off week schedule? But I think those were the biggest concerns, really. It was the hybrid piece. Jay's been really great about communicating with staff and updating, just as he has the community. So I think there is a sense of security in that they know that we're working on, making sure that they're safe. We're involving them in conversations. Building principals are communicating with them all the time as well. So I think it really is more how do we manage that home school life?
Yeah. To say that hybrid model is the one that I keep getting stuck on myself. I really I'm having trouble with it. I don't understand it. If the teachers are there the whole time, how that's limiting exposure. I can see it being super disruptive. Like, I get it. They can build relationships and maybe they can use that time to ask questions and then come home and have like lecture-based learning remotely or something. But even like the splitting of the friends and the comfort, like I know this isn't helpful, but I'm stuck on that hybrid. Like, I really don't understand. I know it's for space issues, I guess, but if you're and you're there the whole time and the kids are coming in, you're then exposed to every child and then you're exposing the children. So I don't get it.
Well, I had the same thoughts, Laura, but I guess I talked to a teacher who was like, so I'm going to have a video camera videoing me teaching my students in the classroom, and then the kids at home are going to be watching like something out of Star Trek. And I said, I don't think that's what this is.
No.
But I mean, that would be the only way to make it so that the teachers aren't doing everything twice. And that's ineffective. So that was my thought when I first read it. I'm like, how is this going to work?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody from DESE or the state would, they haven't said this, but I'm assuming they would not say it's ideal in any way, shape, or form. I think they're struggling. Like if you think more globally, like we are lucky. We're fortunate in a lot of ways, even though we're dealing with all of this. We don't have any schools that are just bursting at the seams. We have some odd shaped classrooms, but we don't have, there are districts that I've been into that would probably surprise you, not just your urban districts, where they have classrooms in areas that definitely weren't designed to be classrooms. They have, even their general ed classrooms will have 30 plus students, like on a good day. Like we luckily have more or less uniformity in terms of classroom space. We're not packed to the gills anywhere. It's those districts that I think they're trying to come up with some kind of happy medium where they could even having half their kids is still going to be a challenge getting that 3 feet.
Right.
So when I think of hybrid, that's usually what I think of, is those districts that there's just no way we can pull it off. It's going to be really hard, but we can pull it off. So there will be districts that just can't do it. There's just space-wise, no way. They're already using in the guidance they talk about, if you have to, use the library, use the CAF. There are many districts, unfortunately, that are already using those spaces, not for what they were intended for. They're using it for classroom space already. So that's what I keep thinking of with the hybrid.
Yeah. Okay. And even that 3 feet, like, where did that come from? All of a sudden, 3 feet's okay, but we've been told 6 feet outside. So
Well,
I know I'm not being helpful.
wasn't there I think there was a chart in there that showed just a reduction of risk and that it went down significantly at 3 feet.
Yeah.
So I think they're just trying to find it looked like they were just trying to find a happy medium where, 6 feet, I think to a lot of schools seemed pretty much impossible.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Liz. 6 feet there's just no way. We couldn't do it. No way. And the last thing I had, and out of the bigger concerns, this isn't a huge one. We are looking to expand 1-to-1. And that would be in grades 6 through 8. We would have, we think, enough monies to increase our number of Chromebooks and be able to provide 1-to-1 for those kids, so that we would then be 6 through 12, 1-to-1 combination of Chromebook and iPad. Usually, if you were going to have an expansion like this, you'd prep for a year and work up to it. Obviously, we do not have that luxury. The tech team's been doing a great job. We're gonna make it work, but it's a huge challenge for us. In terms of sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Are you thinking Chromebooks just because it's cheaper than iPads?
100%.
Okay. Thank you. Because I just bought one for my daughter, so now I'm like, oh, well.
The kids are used to them. We probably have maybe a 1-to-2 at the middle school already. So a great deal of familiarity in terms of students and staff, which definitely helps. So learning a brand new device, A, we couldn't afford it. B, I think the learning curve might be just almost impossible remotely. It would be a significant jump for our 6th graders, but I think they'll the kids they're natives to this. They'll figure it out, and we'll figure it out on the staff level. But 7 and 8 have been working to get to that end for the past few years. So I don't think it's going to be a big jump there. In terms of the survey results, I grabbed these screenshots just from this morning. So again, we have more responses. About 85% of the parents who have responded do plan to send children back to school based on the guidance that was shared with them. this one, take with a big grain of salt because we haven't yet really dived into like asking parents, is this a change? So the parents who 58% said they plan on having their kids take the bus. We don't know if they took the bus last year. Is this a change? Are they moving away from the bus? We just don't know with this small sample size. And then the last one, 75%, which is to be expected. We're not a great walking and bike riding community. We're a great community in that sense, but we don't have a lot of sidewalks, and it's tough to ride your bike and walk to many of our schools. And we have 16 that are taking transporter beam. So that's pretty risky, but I'm looking forward to seeing that. And that was all I had.
Amy, you had a question?
I was going to ask if we're going to use CARES Act funding for the transporter pads.
If we can afford it, but we'll probably have to scrap the idea.
Maybe we could put the high school robotics team on it.
They are brilliant. Those kids are amazing. So what else can I answer? I'm sure you guys have a million questions.
You briefly mentioned fees, and without going into a lot of detail at the moment, but what were thoughts about parking fees?
Out of the three, I think that one's the hardest one. My recommendation would be to suspend athletic fees and suspend bus fees. Get going through the year. If everything goes back to an actual normal prorate fees, and then we can implement them with some sense of normalcy. Even if we were to start, let's pretend we all start, everybody goes to school on September 1st. Who knows how it's going to end up playing out? Are we going to have to switch to one of these other plans for a few weeks? Like if we do fees, I'd like to do them and do them right. There's a lot of work that goes into collecting fees, organizing fees. I feel like the same people who would be doing all that work, largely Anita, is going to be working 24/7 doing everything that I just talked about. So that would be my thinking there. With the parking, I'd be more apt to say, let's just suspend all fees temporarily, at the very least. If we do it's going to put more pressure on the parking for sure. The high school has to monitor and has to chase down those fees. Again, if I had to charge one, my recommendation would be charge the parking fee. Obviously it gets tricky if we're doing the every other week thing, prorating and figuring that out and giving money back to people. It's just a challenge. And I think you guys, we've talked about fees so much, you guys know that. So I would at the very least recommend suspending the other two until we should be collecting bus fees and transportation fees right now. I mean, it takes that long. We'd be behind if we go ahead, which is okay, but realize we're already behind.
As a follow-up question is how much do we collect?
In total, we collect for transportation about $140,000 a year. In anticipating the question about the finances, we do have enough in banked in revolver accounts where Dan and I, and to a lesser degree, Anita, I can't tie her to it yet, are comfortable that if we suspended fees that we'd be okay for the year. We couldn't do it into FY22. We'd obviously, as we build that budget, if we're still in this dilemma and we weren't having fees in 22, we wouldn't have the monies to fall back on in terms of what's been banked in the revolving account, and we'd have to make other decisions to offset that. But for 1 year, we could do it, and fiscally, I wouldn't be concerned about it.
Jay, when do you need a decision by us for this? Sorry, Liz. Soon.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to collect, then we need to start collecting.
Yeah,
I
like
mean, normally today would be the deadline, right?
you're right. So could we do it? Yeah, I mean, we could do it if in 2 weeks, if we meet again and the decision is let's just move full bore with fees, we do it and we figure out how to, there could be a scenario where we collect fees and then guidance comes out that we're going to go remote or we're going to do a hybrid, and then we've got to scramble and compensate people for that.
Amy?
Yeah, I have a thought that might take some of the pressure off. What if we decide to suspend the fees for half the year and see how things go? We can revisit it January, February timeframe. If we're back in school and COVID's gone, great. Ha ha ha. If not, we can vote again and suspend them through the rest of the year. And that way we're not tied. Because I agree, but especially athletic fees, I agree. We don't even know when we're going to know what sports we're going to play. And I don't know how you charge a fee based on that.
Yeah, and same with the bus. If we're trying to encourage people to ride a bus to help with our traffic problems and not even knowing if we're going to be, I mean, my guess, if I had to guess, is there's going to be some sort of shutdown again. I mean, hopefully not, but
I did have one other thought about the parking fees. There is quite a backlog right now of students who would have gotten their licenses if were it not for the shutdown. We have a horde of juniors that simply haven't gotten their licenses, and one of them is my daughter. So if this is a conflict of interest, please stop me. We don't have any word yet on the lottery, obviously, for the spaces for the seniors. We don't know when the seniors are going to get us, seniors and juniors are going to get assigned. We could do the same with the parking fee. We could give kids a spot for half the year and charge half the money, if any, and then revisit it again later in the year. I don't think you're going to fill your lot up with students. You've got a smaller senior class and not enough juniors have their licenses.
I see what you're saying. Liz?
So I kind of like this half year idea. I hadn't thought about that, but my first inclination is just I'm nervous. I know we have some money in an account that could cover it, but I'm still a little nervous in waiving the fee altogether for the year. It's a lot of money, and I mean, I know in the scheme of the whole budget, it's not, but it's a significant amount anyway. And B, we don't know what the transportation guidelines are going to be. But I'm a little hesitant to try to encourage more people to ride the bus, because I'm guessing, when I was just doing the math, we have 17 buses based on the amount of bus fees that we collected last year. And this is just an estimate, so I don't know if this is accurate, but it looks like about 40 people per bus that we had last year. And if we have to space them one seat or one person every other seat, that's going to create a real problem. We're already, talking about hiring bus monitors and all that, which I know we may have funds. Hopefully we'll have funds to do that. But I think, if it puts us in a difficult position trying to make a decision now and it's a timing thing, then I like the idea of suspending it for half the year, I guess. But like I said, I was thinking about, I understand the parking or the drop-off issue, and I was trying to think of if there's other ways that we might be able to alleviate that a little bit. And I'd thrown out this idea of whether or not we could have a second drop-off, for example, at the middle school and high school at the municipal center. I know that would take some town cooperation, perhaps with like a right turn only during certain hours sign at the exit at the municipal center. We'd need a volunteer to be up there at the municipal center to make sure the kids proceed to the campus, but it's just, brainstorming ideas to try to figure out how we can, we already saw in the survey that a lot of people are going to be dropping off no matter what. So, it's just an idea that I was throwing around, but I don't know. I agree with the athletic fees. I mean, yes, we don't know what sports we're going to be able to have. It's probably minimal, and I wasn't real keen on that to begin with, so I'd be in favor of that. But like I said, I'm a little hesitant about the bus fees, I guess. So that's my 2 cents.
Anybody else? I mean, I'm in all favor of taking away all fees if we can handle it financially, and I think we can this year. I think I would rather our staff focus this summer on all the million of other things that we have to do, I guess I disagree with you, Liz, is that I think while we're struggling to encourage people, that's also families on buses. So my kids they're on the same bus, they can sit together. They don't have to sit one to a seat. And while we struggle on the guidance on that, we do want to try to encourage people to ride the buses if they're safe and to make sure they're safe for our kids. And obviously people are going to drop off because that's what they do. But regardless of, if you think of North Street and the changes they made this year, which were helpful, but I mean, all our schools can't handle the volume of traffic. I mean, there's one entrance in, NGES is the same. So I struggle with that. So to add another fee, if we can handle it, I would definitely be in favor of at least suspending it for the fall and revisiting it in January, as Amy suggested. I don't know if we want to, we want to take a vote tonight, or if we want to put it on the agenda for next time. I'm happy to do that if people want to think about it some more. Jen?
I'd like to put it on the agenda for next time.
Okay. I wonder how many times fees has been on the agenda.
Oh, gosh. When is it not?
Any.
All right, so that sounds good. So we can think about it some more and brainstorm, good ideas always. Okay.
I have a question from the audience.
Okay.
For students who attend ELC and get bused from there, they usually have a much smaller amount of students on the bus. Do you think this may affect that?
It depends on the number of students. Some years we do have a smaller number, some years it's a larger number. In the end, they are going to have to abide by whatever comes out for guidance in terms of the bus. So if it's, as we talked about, 15 kids a bus, it's going to be the same thing, 15 kids a bus.
And it's their bus, right? It's an ELC funded bus, or it's not us, right?
It used to be us. Dan, is that? He's muted. I can get back to you with that. I've lost track, but we've done it different ways.
What was the question?
Is the ELC bus, is that ours or is that theirs? In terms of who funds it?
They pay for their bus.
Okay.
Their bus. Yeah.
Through AA, Dan?
Yeah.
So we're going to have the same procedure and protocol that we have.
Thanks, Dan.
Great. All right, I am going to share my screen to talk about the Grafton Public School Committee anti-racism resolution. So this came about from the Massachusetts School Committee Association that we belong to, MASC. There's been kind of spawned from Black Lives Matter initiative to kind of really start addressing racism in the schools. And they're urging school committees to pass a resolution, and what they'll do with it is it'll be kind of what we did, I think it was 3 weeks ago when we last met. We made that COVID relief resolution that we really wanted the state to not give us any unfunded mandates related to COVID. And they've been doing a really good job kind of championing that, and there's been, I think, over 100 districts signed on, similar with the anti-racism resolution. This, I think, to me, is a little more symbolic, that this is a commitment that we're going to make. And I regret doing this, I had made some suggestions that I had kind of stolen from another school committee group, and I don't actually like any of the suggestions, and I would take them out if I hadn't already sent them over, especially now that we spoke with Tracy and we learned about Mr. Pignataro's initiatives and things that are going on in the district. My concern was I didn't want to just make some resolution and move on from it. I wanted actions from it, but if the district was coming to us with actions as they have, and we've learned about tonight, I personally am okay with it. So this was like an equity and inclusion task force, and then they even went on a little bit stronger, which I'm now in disagreement on. So I confused things, and I probably shouldn't even have done that. But this first part is the official resolution. And we can look at this tonight as a first reading if we want to, which means we look at it once. If we have any suggestions, we can put it out to the community for feedback. If we want to send it to the leadership team, we can do that and then bring it back when we meet next as a second reading, if we want to do that. And I guess I'll take any questions. I didn't write this top part, so but I don't know if anyone's been following along with it on the listserv or not. And Liz and Rahul, we'll have to make sure we get you signed up for MASC and subscribed. There's a great listserv of all the school committee members in the area, and they often have the same, I mean, we're all going through the same things a lot. So we often have the same questions, and you can ask questions of neighboring committees, and it's a really great supportive group. And it's a lot of help. So we'll get you signed up for that. But anyway, I'm open to thoughts, comments, motions.
All right, I make a motion to accept the anti-racism resolution dated June 30th, 2020 as a first reading.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Laura.
Amy.
So the last part that talks about at the next superintendent shall work with applicable stakeholders to draft legislation to be voted on at the next school committee meeting. And now I can't read it because you scrolled.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. To create,
This
creating the task force. That's the MASC wording, right? We can spread that out if Jay needs some more time.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that next school committee meeting. Yeah, good thought. And I think that's even being done.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Is that what Jim is doing? It doesn't seem like that's district-wide, though.
No, and so I asked that question. That's a great question. So I don't believe it's not district-wide. It's strictly in the high school. It's student-led. They have a teacher who took a class from UMass on this subject, so he's kind of leading it. But then Tracy, I know with her book group, was talking about kind of getting a broader group together, right?
We're essentially going to replicate that across the district in all 6 schools. But the high schools, definitely, they jumped on it. The kids are involved. We're letting them run with it as they should. Following that, we're going to be doing the same thing at all 6.
So that next school committee, I think we should, maybe this is something that needs to kind of be revised.
Well, if we vote on it next meeting, then it wouldn't be until August to create that task force. But I don't know if that timing works for Jay.
I don't know what Tracy thinks. She when she gets her brain on something, she moves pretty fast. I certainly, as long as if we move more quickly and it gets formed in July, I would hope that you guys would be fine with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I just didn't want to put something out there that put pressure on you guys.
I totally appreciate that, Amy.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that's fair. And if we beat it, great. And if we don't, that's okay too.
Yeah, I think at least for me, the spirit is that it happens, not
Yeah.
that it happens in 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But I think that's a really good point, Amy.
And I think
And I mean, what, the policy police aren't going to come, I think. But you
Yeah.
never know.
they come when you least expect it, don't they?
You're right, Amy. You're
I think
absolutely
it
right.
should be an equity and inclusion task force. But other than that,
You're
think it's
right.
great. I think it's great. I
Cool.
support this 100%.
Yeah, me too. I'm really pleased to see it, and I'm really pleased, and I said it earlier, with Jim and the kids, students. It's a different world now, and the students are going to lead us, and I think we're very lucky. But I think it's very important, and even though we have so much other things going on, we can't let this go anymore. So I appreciate the work that Tracy's done, and that presentation. I really liked that slide about the difference between the social justice and the multicultural education and cultural awareness. I mean, that to me really was very telling. Any other discussion?
I can't let this go. Sorry. There's a space, I think, between Grafton Public Schools and the period in the last sentence.
Sure, we'll clean it up. If you have any other grammatical things, you can just send them on through. As long as it
And
doesn't
that sounds
change.
great.
It'll get read one more time before it comes for final
Sorry,
approval.
Amy pointed out the and versus the a, so then I had to. I wasn't going to say anything, but.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome, Liz.
Ben Conley,
Grammar.
Sorry, what?
are you in favor of this with the grammatical errors fixed
Yes, I am.
for first reading? Great. Amy Marr,
Are we voting?
on the first reading.
Oh, yes. Amy Marr, yes.
Liz Finney,
Yes.
Rahul Rati. Rahul, how can we unmute you? Oh, there you are.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry at all. Great. And what I would like to do is maybe just circulate this among the district leadership team and see if anybody had any thoughts on it as well. So before we take it to a second reading and whenever we meet next, if that's okay with the committee.
Sounds good.
All right, and Laura, aye. Sorry. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that this happened pretty quickly. But I just wanted to make sure that there was actions behind it. So thank you. All right, and now I'm going to stop sharing. And Kristen, I'll make you a co-host now. We're going to talk about the nurses contract. Thank you, Kristen.
I actually don't have anything to share in terms of
Okay.
a screen. The nurses group is the last group that we had to negotiate contracts for. Their contract is similar to the other contracts. It really mirrors a lot of the teacher contract. It is a 1-year term, and it is like the teachers, a 1% for the first half of the year increase, and then a second 1% increase for the second half of the year. There is new language in the nurse contract. We added a retirement clause that was similar to or exactly the same as the teacher contract. A copy of that MOA is in the folder for you to review and then to vote on.
Great. Any questions for Kristen? And Amy and I were on that negotiating committee as well. Thank you, Amy. If you have any questions. This is a 1 year, so going to be back at it shortly.
Let's start it all over again, right? And this group, just so that everyone knows, this group, they were only delayed in their negotiations because of the school closure. We were actually supposed to negotiate with them in early March, and that had to be postponed. So there were no issues with negotiation. It was just due to the closure.
Oh, that's a good point. Sure. Okay. Can I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the memorandum of agreement between Grafton School Committee and the Massachusetts Nurses Association 2020 to 2021.
Second.
That expires on June 30th. Wait a minute. June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, Jen Conley,
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney,
Liz Spinney, aye.
Rahul Rati. Oh, you're on mute, but I read your lips.
Yes, Laura DA.
And Laura Often, aye. So the motion carries 5-0. I should say when I do this roll call, I say all in favor, but if you want to abstain or say no, you can. I feel like that needs to be said, because I probably won't do all the way around and then be like anyone abstention. So we can probably do it all at once, but if you want to say no or abstain, you are more than welcome. Great. So Kristen, we all need to sign this?
Yes, so we have the electronic copy in your folder, and Jay has a hard copy that I think we could probably circulate the same way we did with the other MOAs. And then once those are signed, I can get those up onto the website.
Okay, so the last time we did it, we just left them outside my house, or I drove them to people who couldn't make it to my house. So was that okay with everybody? Is that?
It's good for me.
I'll let you know my address for who. Also, I have a hat for you, so that will be good.
Sure.
You just have to wait till the rain stops.
Yeah. Oh, good point, Liz.
Right.
So this says Grafton School Committee. It's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Excellent. All right. I'll let you all send an email when it's out. And again, we'll wait till it's not torrential downpours every day. Good point.
Hopefully.
And I'm happy to drive it over too, if people can't make it over. Okay. Ooh, future agenda schedule planning. So it is summer. Normally we would be a little more laid back on our meetings. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have that luxury this summer, but I do recognize that people should go on vacation. So I guess my thought was, since we don't have to worry about rooms, maybe we just keep our regular meeting schedule, which is typically, what is it, first and third or second and fourth?
It's in theory, it's second and fourth.
Okay, thank you. Which we would be right on. So my thought is, as long as we have a quorum, I guess, and Jay's here, we'll meet. And then if you're away, don't worry and enjoy your vacations if you have them. But what do people think of that?
Sounds good.
Does anybody have vacations? And I'm very jealous if you do. Amy?
I'm away the second week of August. I'm going to New Hampshire, assuming the numbers hold. We're going to be in a house. I can still participate. It's not a problem.
Oh, okay. Well, that's up to you.
It's
I would
not-
definitely.
It's not so much a vacation as it is just getting out of my house.
Yeah. And actually, that's a good point, since we're all remote anyway, but I would leave that 100% up to you. Like, I do think it's important to rest. We do have a year ahead of us. So, okay, well, we'll do that. And if we turn into run into any quorum problems, then we'll adjust as we
Do you
go.
want to do a doodle, or like I'll also be away the second week of August, and I do not ever have good connectivity there. So
Okay, so maybe that second week of August. Yeah, I'll throw a doodle up and send it to everybody, and then we can just make sure we don't have complete overlapping.
or just maybe have a list of when the dates are, whatever is scheduled, and then we can just say yes, no.
Or you can just send me your vacation and I can probably figure it out on my own. Want to do that? I'm still trying to plan mine.
So for Laura, for July, we're talking about the 14th and the 28th. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that work for you? Are you
Oh, yeah, totally. I just want to
okay?
short term know what the next two are. So
Yeah, let's do at least the next two, maybe August. It sounds like maybe that second week doesn't work, and we'll figure it out. I know there has been some concern about us overlapping with the select board. Hopefully they're going to be back to their regular schedule. So we won't be overlapping as much, but maybe it's just as we try to get through this crisis, we just have that issue and people can watch the recording.
I don't mean to pry, but Jay, you are taking a vacation, yes?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure I'll take some days. It's like a vacation, just getting to work with Tracy and Kristen, and Anita and Dan.
Oh no, I'm reading their faces, and I don't. That's not the vibe I'm getting here.
Also, us.
No, yeah, I figured that was a given. Yes. If there's discussion, is there do we anticipate talk about changing the day of the week that we meet next year? No.
I'm fine with Tuesdays.
Okay. Okay.
That's
If that ever comes up, we're in competition, if you will, for that conference room F, assuming we're back to at some point meeting in person. So I just want the committee to be aware every year, not every year, every couple of years, we talk about maybe moving the day around. Just, I need to know that really early to get in the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of committees that meet.
Yeah.
It seems easy now that we're remote, but I do hope we'll be able to get back.
Even Tuesday's hard. That's conservation committee. It's not their fault. But if something, like we have a snow day and we have to change, it was a real challenge getting that room.
I think, like Laura said, if select board goes back to first and third, then we're fine.
Yeah.
Yep. And it looks like they're heading in that direction. So
okay, great. That's terrific. Okay.
That would be my thought. Okay. And I'm glad that there's so much interest in people wanting to participate live in public meetings. We've come a long way since this time last year. We weren't even live.
Right.
Okay. And then I guess, so next week, we'll have the fees on the agenda to talk about. We will obviously get hopefully more of an opening restart update. I'd love if we can, like an HR update, Kristen, if I know we have had several new hires, at least elementary school level assistant principals, right? So maybe if we can have an update on that. Sure. Anything else? I'm sorry, I've dominated.
I guess on the administrative end, I'm going to recommend that we largely, unless people have questions, skip over the placeholder that FY 2021 budgets tonight. But by the 14th, we should have, hopefully, with that guidance comes more definition and allows us to have more definition in terms of the budget for sure. So,
Amy?
I was going to suggest we'll be in the middle of ESY by then. Maybe we'll be able to get an update on how that's going.
Yeah, I can. I'll reach out to Lisa Rice actually today and see if I can get it on her calendar. She's been doing a great job.
Anything else urgent? Okay. If you think of anything, let me know. I'm sure, I mean, things are changing so quickly. So, okay, good. Well, at least we're through July. We kind of know what's going on. Approval of minutes.
All right, I approve, I approve the minutes for June 9th, 2020 as presented.
Second.
Great, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, this will be a roll call vote. Jen Conley?
Jen Connolly, yes.
Amy Marr?
Amy Marr, yes.
Liz Spinney?
Liz Spinney, abstain.
Rahul Rati?
Rahul Rati, abstain.
Okay, motion carries 3-0 with 2 abstentions.
Laura, you need to vote.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you. Laura Often, I agree. 3-I. Thank you, Jen. Keep doing that tonight. We also have a warrant.
I move the committee approve warrant number 52 dated June 25th, 2020 in the amount of $236,717.12.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. This will be a roll call vote. Jen Conley?
Jennifer Connolly, yes.
Amy Marr?
Amy Marr, yes.
Or Liz Spinney?
Liz Spinney, yes.
Rahul Rati?
Rahul Rati, yes.
Laura Often, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Great. And next up, is this Dan or Jay for the energy audit agreement?
Is Dan, it would be Dan if Dan's paying attention. Let's see if he is.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I can talk about it. So we put out a bid for energy performance contracting a few months ago. On June 18th, we interviewed 3 companies. We had 6 total companies that submitted bids. So we selected 3 for interviews. Then through those interviews, we decided Train Technologies was the best for us. So we did do reference checks as well to make that decision. So Train Technologies, they're ready to go start the building audit as soon as this week. What they'll do is they'll audit all 6 buildings and develop a comprehensive report on any projects that we could do through this energy performance contracting. And then that takes a month or 2, and then we decide which projects we do want to go through. They help give exact or very close estimates on how much that would cost, and then we'd go out for financing. So to do the audit, they do have the states has a standard contract that's used between districts and energy service companies. So Train has sent over that contract with some markups. Our attorney is reviewing that right now. And then so the plan to talk about, I mean, I'll take as many questions as you guys have, and then the plan is that the school committee would vote to approve that we would move forward with Train Technologies, basically giving approval that you want to proceed with an audit, and then also approve that Superintendent Cummings can sign the contract once it's ready, which should be in the next couple days, so that they can get going because they're ready to start any day. And our goal is to have everything completed and finalized sometime in late August, early September. And if a town meeting vote is needed for financing, we could be ready for the October town meeting. And so it is kind of a tight schedule, but Train is confident that if we can keep this going and get started quickly, we will be able to get it all done by late August.
Okay, I see 2 questions. Liz?
Yeah, so is the intent that they would perform the audit and then they would perform I think it's energy management services as part of that, and that we wouldn't consider any other companies to perform the services that would be necessary?
Yeah, that's right. Once we select them, they do all of it.
And we pick what gets done, of course. They're going to come up with a list of 100 things and the cost savings associated with each and the cost estimate, etc. But we as a district would pick a couple things. We could pick 20 things. That's where obviously the school committee is going to play a large role.
Okay, because maybe that alleviates the concern. One of my concerns with the language as they marked it up was that in section 4, the ownership of the report would reside with them. So we couldn't take that, and if we start working with them and for some reason we decide we don't want to follow through with those services, but we have the results of the audit, then we can't take that and use it for another company. But if that's definitely not going to happen, if that's certainly not in the cards, then I guess that's not a concern. But
and that may
would want to have ownership of that audit report.
And that may get, so right now that draft, I think what we shared with you was basically the draft or in a very early version. That went to our lawyer to look at. Obviously, once we get that back, we'll share it with the school committee, tap into your expertise. We can have a back and forth with Train, and then only when comfortable with everybody, I wouldn't sign until then. Mm-hmm. So okay. We'll have a chance to take a collective look at it.
Okay, thank you.
But we met with several other companies besides Train.
That's right.
Correct. And we went with Train because we liked them the best. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really, everybody did a nice job, but that was like a full day of presentations, but we were super impressed with Train. We contacted a variety of references, everything. We are very optimistic about working with them.
And Amy, you had your hand up.
So I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around what exactly they're going to audit if the buildings are not being used. Are they going to use old information like from last year before the like how?
Yep.
That's what I can't wrap my head around.
That's exactly what they'll do. I don't know the specifics of it, Amy, but we asked that very question. And that's what they'll do. They also obviously go on site and not just look at the numbers, but look at the actual antiquated systems, et cetera. Take that into account, and that's what they come back to us with.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can add. So what they do is the goal is that they find anything that's inefficient, that they come up with projects to fix that, and then they calculate a guaranteed amount of energy savings that those projects will result in, and then the theory is that financing of those projects could be paid through the energy savings. And I just wanted to add that. So in their history of doing these projects, they've always been able to guarantee those energy savings, and that pays for the projects. That they've never kind of missed on that guarantee.
So I was just trying to get clarification that the vote is just to move ahead and not necessarily agree on the contract.
Yeah, and you're not agreeing on like the final projects at this point in the the dollar amount.
Yeah, just we're not signing the contract. We're just
Yeah,
agreeing.
so it'd say agree to move forward and allow Jay to sign the contract.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion for the district to move ahead with the audit agreement and for Jay Cummings to sign the contract when ready.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, a roll call vote. Jen Conley?
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr?
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney?
Liz Spinney, aye.
Rahul Rati?
Alrighty, aye.
Laura Upton, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Great. So thank you, Jay and Dan, and thank you for this. This does have the potential to really help the district even through some strange times. So thanks for all the work that went into this. And lunch prices, Dan.
Okay, yeah, so I gave you a memo. We pretty much do this every year. We take a look at the cost of serving lunch, kind of try to project out revenue versus expenses, and then determine if we need to increase lunch prices. So last year, I believe it was the 10 cents increase that was recommended and approved. This year is a 15 cents increase. Part of the reason that still holds true this year for needing an increase is that the minimum wage is going up every year for the next few years. But also, we talked about going to 15 cents this year because of a lot of the uncertainty around lunch costs in revenue next year. There could be a decrease in revenue if kids are only coming to school kind of half the time. And then if there's any more full closures periods of time. So just to kind of try to make sure we can keep the program profitable, we think a 15 cents increase would be good. Hopefully everything will go well this year and we possibly wouldn't need an increase the next year, but that's what I'm recommending right now is a 15 cents increase.
I have a question. Do you think 15 cents would be enough if people are eating in the classroom, would less people be apt to buy, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's all kinds of concerns about how it's going to be served and how many kids are going to be in school and how many kids are going to eat versus last year. So, I mean, we didn't want to increase it too dramatically, but just a little bit more than last year. And I think nobody really knows exactly how it's going to go right now, so we're hoping for the best. I think we can serve kids at home. You know, if it is half like kids at home 1 week and kids back in school, we can do the serving at home like we're doing in the summer, where kids can come pick up lunch or delivery. So that's one way to keep revenue. And yeah, there's some cost. Can you hear me? There's some cost related to getting the food to the classrooms, but we believe the CARES Act will pay for any kind of equipment we need to get the food to the classroom, and if we need additional staffing, that can be covered by the CARES Act. So we can't cover any kind of existing expenses with CARES Act, but if it's added costs due to this kind of new circumstance, we can ask for reimbursement for that.
Okay. Any other questions? And Dan, how does this affect free and reduced lunch? Does it?
No, the free lunch is still free, and the reduced lunch is still 40 cents for a lunch. So those are not affected.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense that free wouldn't be. All right. Any other questions? Okay, I'll need a motion.
I make a motion to accept the increase in the school lunches as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Jen Conley.
Jen Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr.
Amy Marr, aye.
Elizabeth Spinney.
Liz Spinney, aye.
Rahul Rati.
Rahul Rati, aye.
Laura Often, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Dan. Member reports. Anybody have any updates? Amy?
So I feel like I've said this 1,000 times, but the Grafton Sustainability Commission is set to vote in next Thursday. It'll be next Thursday on the benchmarking report. We are finished. We made some adjustments to the last meeting last week. I believe Dan has seen it, or part of it. No surprises. It's basically talking about, just for the new members of the committee, the financial comparisons between Grafton and our surrounding communities and some of our sister districts. It's been very interesting to be the school committee's rep on that committee. And I do think I'm going to have to be reappointed at some point, but we probably shouldn't do it tonight. I am the clerk of that committee, and it's been super interesting and great to serve. So hopefully next week.
Great. Well, Amy actually brought up a good point. I meant to talk about this in future agending. We do have to assign our subcommittees. I didn't want to put it on the agenda this week, just to give everybody kind of a chance to get in and settled. But that will be one of them. CIPC, policy. I would like to re-engage the finance committee and the select board in that tri-committee smaller subset that we tried several years ago. I think maybe now that there's been some new members on all the committees, we can try to do that again. So we'll put together the list, and then we can vote when we meet in 2 weeks on any kind of subcommittees and figure out what people are passionate about.
I think that's a great idea to put a list out so people know what.
Yeah, what there is. I have to find it, and maybe people will add to it. But great. But you reminded me, I forgot to bring that up. But thank you for the work on that. I'm really excited to see that report, and I know you guys have put in tons of time and effort on that, and I think it's going to be very beneficial as we continue to plan our budget forward and hopefully extend the override. I do know this is now public because I got a text, but there is still some news on the override. They found some additional ballots. So obviously that'll change our discussion. Hopefully it doesn't. But that happened today.
Laura, I understand that's going to be with the court tomorrow.
Oh,
So
okay.
hopefully, I think that came out of the select board meeting, I believe.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. So that could change our
Hopefully we'll hear
discussion
something soon.
in 2 weeks. Thank you. For member reports, I think I would like to, it is Dan Gale's last meeting tonight. Dan, we are definitely going to miss you. I'll speak for myself. I want to thank you. We kind of came on, I think, pretty much at the same time. One of my first meetings was saying goodbye to our former finance director. It's been a pleasure working with you. You're a genius with Excel spreadsheets. Your humor, you late night questions being answered, weekends, especially during this budget year. It's much appreciated. You've been great to work with, and I appreciate you. I'm definitely going to miss you, and Hudson's very lucky to have you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed working with you as well, Laura, and everyone else on the school committee. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else, Jen.
No, I just want to say thank you, Dan, especially since I was the person who signed the warrants. I did get to see you often. And when I speak to people in the office, they always tell me how much you have taught them as well. And so I appreciate you for the budget process is basically all year round. And you are just on top of it all year round and can answer anything at any given moment. So I think I appreciate it. I know the people of the town appreciate it too. So thank you for everything and good luck in Hudson, and we'll miss you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just chime in and say that I'm really going to miss you. You've been a huge help to me, to the GSC. You've certainly been one of the most available people that we've needed to get in touch with a few people, and you've been the one that's always responded right away. And I know you're a financial nerd and all that, and we joke about it, but it's clear that you're passionate about the kids and the education. And that's what I'm going to miss most about you. And I'm not going to cry. But you picked a heck of a year to go out, Dan. So,
Way to go, Dan.
What, Jay?
Way to go, Dan.
Yeah, good job, Dan.
I can't
Amy, you bring up such a good point. I think we talk about the budget, but the transportation piece of this too. And every year in the beginning of the year, there's always so many concerns. And I always see on social media, like, ask Dan Gale will help. Dan, I think people really admire and respect you and know that you care about the kids. And we talked about this before with Anita coming on. That was one of the things that also impressed me about Anita was just, it's so important to have that feeling behind the numbers when you're in a school. It can't just be numbers. You have to think about the kids, and you consistently did that. We had some long, difficult meetings where you would just throw spreadsheet after spreadsheet and you'd put it into a pie chart for me, which I appreciate. You'll be missed.
I just want to add, Dan, I can't believe you weren't. It's dawning on me that you weren't really pranking me. I accused him of that when he first told me he was leaving. Dan's been absolutely invaluable to me. I know to the school committee and all of the Grafton Public Schools. He really is a great finance director, and he's an even better person, which is saying something. So, Dan, it's been an honor working with you, and I'm going to miss you tremendously. So good luck in Hudson.
Yeah, I'll definitely miss working with you, Jay, and the admin team. Anita's lucky to be working with you, and I'll definitely be keeping in touch.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sorry I won't get the chance to work with you more than one day on the school committee, but I've certainly been observing you and the work that you've done for the committee and for the schools over the, your tenure here, and you're phenomenal, and I really appreciate all the work that you've done, and thank you for your help with the override, and I enjoyed working with you with that. And speaking of buses, I think Dan and I actually met when I had a bus issue several years ago. So appreciate all the work. I know that's not a fun task either. So
Thanks.
thank you. Sorry to see you go so quickly. I just got on.
He did quit before you got on, Liz, so.
Well, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I can't wait to see his office. Not trust
About the what?
This?
his office. It's good. Have you been in there? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It's going to be a new day in that office. Nice and organized.
It's looking pretty good now. I took a lot of my stuff off.
Well,
Dan, I don't know how I'm ever going to plan another summer retreat without you. I'll call you
Oh.
maybe.
Give me a call. Yeah, give me a call.
Okay.
I'm sure Anita will do just fine. Look at her.
Ready.
Yep, she will.
Yeah.
And Dan's going to mentor her for the coming year, which is fantastic.
it is. So we'll get to have you both, which is the best of both worlds. And Dan, as I think we mentioned, Grafton's on the way home between Hudson and Millbury, right? And they meet on Tuesdays as well. So then we have some semblance of normal. We'll celebrate you.
Yeah,
And we do have a gift for you coming, but we're late on it.
Okay.
We blame COVID, supply chain issues.
once Hunter's is open past 9 p.m. coming out.
Right. We didn't make it tonight.
No, we have business.
Business. Well, Dan, we are definitely going to miss you. And Anita, welcome aboard, though.
Thank you.
We are glad to have you. All right. So unless there's anything else anybody would like to say, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Do I have joint seconds?
Yes, you
I'll
did.
give it to Amy.
I'm not used to anybody like trying to chime in with a second. It's been a pretty much a pattern with Jen doing the motion and me seconding for a while. So I'll give you a chance next time.
Sorry, we can fight over
gotta
it.
get in.
That's okay.
It's nice to have some new voices.
It is.
A little quicker, Amy. Come on.
Do we want to try again? Do we want another motion?
No, I'll give it to Amy. She can,
Okay.
she can have it.
All right. Any further discussion?
No.
All right. We have a roll call vote. Jen Conley,
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney,
Liz Spinney, aye.
Rahul Rati,
Alrighty, hey.
Laura Austin, aye. All right. Good night, everybody. And welcome again, Liz and Rahul.